Hugh Freeze says Jackson Arnold is definitely Auburn starter, but is no QB battle a good or bad thing for the Tigers? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Joining me, as he does every week, is my good friend Kyle Rush from the Barn, expert on all things inside Auburn. Kyle had an interesting day today. Sat down with Auburn's head football coach, Hugh Freeze, for a one-on-one interview. We're going to be dropping that interview later this week. But I want to talk about something that we did talk about in the interview, and that is Jackson Arnold being Auburn's starter. Hugh said during the interview, you'll hear it when it releases tomorrow, that Jackson Arnold is the guy, period. No question. This is the second year straight. We really haven't had a QB battle in the spring/summer. They brought him here to be the guy. Hugh said he's the guy. Hasn't seen anything since he's been on campus to say he's not the guy. Is no QB battle a good thing for Auburn? It seems like everybody's still developing. They love where Deuce is headed. He talked about Ashton Daniels understanding his role and wanting to come in and compete. You know, is it overrated having a QB battle in the spring?
I think it's insanely overrated. And let me tell you why. When's the last time you can remember a true, not even just at Auburn, like think of a really true quarterback battle, really anywhere in college football? The only one I can really think of, and I don't even really know if it was a battle that I can think of, was Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa. I got to go back that far where you have like two legit options where they're like literally duking it out all the way up into fall camp and they won't name a starter. I just can't really remember that. I don't think that really happens that often. I don't think there's just like you go into a season where you just don't have a clue and you got to have to go like have a competition to figure out who the best guy is. I just don't think that happens very often. And I'm not even really sure it's that ideal because you're splitting reps when you could be developing, you know, the guy that you feel comfortable rolling with, developing him and building rapport with the wide receivers that I think Hugh mentioned, not only maybe in your interview, but he really talked about Jackson and building his rapport with the wide receivers when he was on Feinbaum recently. So I don't think it's that common, to be honest. And I don't know that it's that big of it's definitely not common at Auburn. And I don't think it's really common across the country either.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Fans were up in arms last year as he openly stated, look, I gave Peyton the job because I felt like he was pressing. They wanted him to be the starter.
2 years ago,
Yeah, they brought him here to be the starter, and that's what happened. And so now you've got Jackson Arnold on campus, the former 5-star QB, paired with another 5-star QB, and then you got Ashton Daniels, who's got a ton of playing experience that Hugh noted, and they feel like he helps set a safe floor for the QB room. Now, understanding that he's going to compete, everybody understands their position. It's a little bit of a magic trick that he's gotten these guys to come and all buy in to what their role would be on this year's version of the Auburn Tigers. That buy-in is crazy from everybody.
We've talked about that too. I talked about it with Zach. I've talked about it with a lot of different folks, how it's just wild how nobody ever leaves, hardly, especially nobody that matters really ever leaves. You just don't have much attrition, and people are coming in that they know, like you're bringing in guys from the portal, especially in the spring. You're bringing in guys that are leaving like starting roles at lower schools, and they're coming in to basically play a backup role, and they only have like 1 year left. So it is strange, but they've been able to sell the vision, and they've been able to get buy-in even when you've had poor, results on the field. So it really speaks to this off the field recruiting and general manager machine that Auburn's kind of roster management machine that they've sort of built. And I'm thinking it's hopefully trending to where it finally starts yielding the results on the field.
Yeah, speaking of results, we talked about what kind of results would be acceptable. Now, we didn't talk QB stats, but we did talk wins and losses. I'm going to save this for for when people watch the interview. But certainly there's an expectation that you got to win this year. And he made the statement that it is very difficult to win in this league without dynamic quarterback play. That's something that we've said repeatedly on our show. You and I have talked about it. You've got to have solid QB play. Auburn has struggled with that over the last couple years. And, I pressed them on QB development. Is this the year that fans can expect the jump? Is this going to look like a Hugh Freeze coached team? A lot of people think that's a lot of passing. And in the better years, they've actually run it more than they've passed it. So, Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb will not be the forgotten men in this equation, but it will come back to quarterback. I don't think people have many questions about the run game. I think it's, can they pass the ball effectively? And they've stacked the deck around these QBs.
Yes, they have.
Hugh feels like they've got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country.
And it's hard to argue with him when you look at it on paper. He said something, I think maybe, I'm trying to think, I think it was like a post-spring press conference. And maybe you and I talked about it. I can't really remember but he said something to the tune of, when I first got here, I thought it would take me 3 full recruiting classes until we were able to compete at the highest level. And that may still be true, but man, I feel like we could be very competitive this year. And that is a complete change of tune from when he first got here, where it's like patience. And then it's like, hey, look, I know I said 3 high school recruiting classes, and I may be right on that. But man, I'm telling you, I think we got something here basically with this team. And this wide receiver room is incredible. And he's, like you said, he's almost stacked the deck to where you're probably going to have to lean more on throwing the ball to really, really have big success. Cause that's how this particular roster, how you exploit matchups and how you get the playmakers the ball. They're all wide receivers. So you're going to have to get them the ball, and you got to have good quarterback play to do that. So I think it all goes back to quarterback play. And you mentioned it. The question may not be, we may need to ask the question after the season. If we struggle again, it's like, okay, is it a evaluation thing? Is it a development thing? But clearly there's a trend here, and it's not happening at quarterback. And I think you got to make sure, do whatever you can to make sure you get it done this year.
Kyle, the issue of QB2 came up. They feel like young Deuce Knight has had a really, really good spring. Now, that's no secret. We've talked about that repeatedly. There were reports that he had not thrown a pick up until the last few days of spring practice. And then eventually at A-Day, there were a few picks that you can put on just, a true freshman doing true freshman things.
First time getting first team reps, stuff like that. Like, it happens.
Yeah, for sure. But he's coming along a lot faster than they anticipated. As a matter of fact, I would say that his development is what they probably expected from Walker White. It didn't happen. Now Walker's out of here. There is a truncated timetable for young QBs to pick things up if they want to get in the line of succession. Deuce Knight seems to be doing that.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Let's talk about, you kind of touched on it. Who's the true quarterback too? And my theory is that it depends, and we're talking about in the case of like an injury or something like that. And my theory is, if something were to happen, heaven forbid, in the beginning of the season, I think Ashton Daniels takes over, because I think you feel like you can maybe take something with him and salvage it. But if it happens towards maybe the end of the season, when you maybe have 3 or 4 games left, I think they may turn it to Deuce. Do you think I'm way off there? Like, you just basically, at the end of the year, it's like there's not much left. Let's just, you maybe have lost some games, give Deuce the reins. But if it's early in the part of the year and you can salvage the season, maybe they ride with Ashton. I'm so curious to see who the real QB2. To me, that's more interesting than who QB1 is. Who's the QB2?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I think. I think if it's early in the season, because he was here in the spring, it may still be Deuce Knight. But hear me out.
That's fine.
But you have the option to pull the plug on him really quickly before you damage his confidence, and go to Ashton Daniels if you need to. But I think they want Deuce to understand that he is the future of Auburn football. I think Ashton Daniels understood the situation that he was walking into, that it was going to be a battle for him to even be QB2, based on my conversation with Hugh. And, Deuce is so supremely talented. They want badly to move to a place where it is the guys from high school taking over the team, and you're not looking for a savior, particularly at QB in the portal every single year. Hugh wants to get away from that badly. So
Sure.
If Deuce Knight is the answer, I think you try to find that out sooner rather than later. You have time with Deuce, right? You have time to go back to Deuce, and you can pull him and you can put him back in later if you feel like it. But because he was here in the spring and he's picking up the playbook and he knows Ashton Daniels, as we are recording this, isn't even on campus yet.
He's not. He's
Doesn't
not
get
even
here to
graduated
the
yet.
end of May.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to catch up to what Hugh Freeze is going to want to do. Now, he's an experienced guy, but this is not an easy system to pick up. And that's why I think maybe it's a coin flip between the two at best. But I would give Deuce a slight edge even early in the season.
I think that's fair. I'm just, you bring Ashton. I guess the question really is, why would Ashton come here? That's the question.
Yeah.
That I think I would love to sit down with him and be like, hey, what is it about, leaving a quote unquote starting position and coming to Auburn where, you could be, quarterback 3 and play your last, season out and not really get a ton of run, barring like a rash of injuries. So I don't know. He's still got a lot of talent. I really like this quarterback room in general. And I love to hear the confidence that you have in all 3 in all different ways. Deuce picking up the offense really quick, Ashton Daniels with the experience if you need him. And then the confidence that you feel like Jackson's been here and building the rapport with the wide receivers. I think he didn't he say, I'm not even going to go hang out with Peyton and Eli over the summer. I'm just going to hang out here in Auburn and we're going to get this thing figured out.
Yeah. We talked about that too. Well, they've closed the talent gap. They have closed the talent gap. He acknowledged that. But this coming season is going to be about coaching. It's going to be a referendum on coaching. We're going to talk about how much it's a referendum on coaching right after a quick words from our friends at the Vibe Vault. The weekend is here. If you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, do us a favor, visit our friends at the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College and next to the Renfro Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. Get fresh for the weekend with our friends at the Vibe Vault. Also, visit our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Longtime sponsors of the show. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. And last but certainly not least, our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. The spring and summer are here to stay. You want to be outside making memories around the grill with your family. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Expectations are going to soar high this year. Now, Hugh talked a lot about the talent gap his first couple of years. That talk has dissipated. It's gone. There's a recognition by this coaching staff that it is now time to put it all together, Kyle. And
that's good because I think people were getting tired of hearing it. Even if it was the truth, I think people were getting tired of hearing it. So I like that we've kind of turned it away from, continuing to talk about having to rebuild build the roster and build the depth and get more talent. So I'm glad the messaging has changed there.
Yeah, it certainly has changed. And I will tell you this, there are things that you could not hide from. This is such an interesting interview. This is the most interesting head coach interview I've done yet, where he admitted last year we didn't miss a bowl game because of talent. As coaches, we've got to do better. And they understand that now that the talent has caught up, this year will be a referendum on coaching and their ability to be able to put guys in the right positions to make plays. That starts with QB. Auburn has got to get QB going. We talk about that 3,000-yard mark a lot in this discussion. Getting Jackson Arnold to 3,000 yards and a better than 2-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio, I think is going to be super important. Hugh understands that that's important as well. Says that you can't win in this league without dynamic quarterback play. So he understands how important that is. But the rest of it, Kyle, they've stacked wide receiver. This Auburn may have a top 5 wide receiver room in the entire country. During this
Yeah.
interview, he called Horatio Fields the Keandre Lambert Smith of this wide receiver room. High
Wow.
praise for Horatio Fields.
Wow. Think about the context around that comment right there. Horatio Fields, who by all accounts is probably going to be number 4, you would think, like maybe the number 4 guy uh, in this lineup, and you're comparing him to the guy who almost had one of the more historic wide receiving seasons in Auburn history last season. He was the true number 1. So that's who you're comparing him to. Am I far off by saying Horatio maybe being like the number 4 guy or number 3 guy at times, but maybe like a number 3.5 in this wide receiver room?
I think that he's moved up quite a bit. And again, the question was asked about how do you get all these guys the ball? No answer was given. they just want to run the offense and try to figure out how to be effective moving the ball. But certainly there's so much football to go around that it's going to be a tough situation trying to find enough football for all the wide receivers they've had. But not only wide receiver, you've gone out and you've got Xavier Chaplin, you got Mason Murphy, you beefed up your O-line. And if Auburn can find a decent pass protection, then they should be pretty good in the pass game as well.
You've almost gotten to the point, and you may not even be almost anymore. You've run out of it. You've run out of, I don't want to call them excuses, but you've run out of reasons why you can't have good quarterback play with the additions on the offensive line, with the continued building of this wide receiver room. You're running out of reasons not to be able to have good quarterback play. And I think that can be a blessing and it can be a curse as well if you can't get it done, because it's going to have a lot more. It's going to really intensify that, that magnifying glass is going to get hot, when the sun starts beating down on you, whenever you're not, if you're having struggles, you're still having struggles at the quarterback position. So they've checked a ton of boxes. Now you just got to go do it.
Yeah, it is time to go do it, which means that Jeremiah Cobb and Demaria Alston will also be a part of that equation. It's the only part of the offense I don't hear Hugh Freeze talking about. And I think that's a good thing for those young men. There's nothing being said about this running back room. I think they're pretty solid in what they have there in those two.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out who has the best chance to, maybe pop and be a little bit more of a feature back, or if it's even, I don't know, if it's even desirable to have a true feature back when you, instead of having like 2 or 3 guys that all are capable and they can all be fresh all the time. I mean, Georgia does it. Georgia doesn't really have that true guy that carries the ball 200 times in a year anymore. Like it's a lot of committee. And I don't think committee has to mean, when they say you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. I don't think that's the case when it comes to running backs. And Auburn has, I think, 3 guys in Darrell Robinson that we didn't get to see this spring that all bring something a little bit different to the table and can all be very effective. So you may not have to rely on them to be able to move the ball, but it may be one of those situations to where you throw to set up the run, and then you got 3 home run hitters back there.
Yeah. Last but certainly not least, Auburn may be making a shift away from running much, if any, 12 personnel this year because of the talent shift at wide receiver. There was an admission by Hugh Freeze that he said, we haven't really done any 10 personnel, but you're going to see it this year. Yeah. I am so excited to see 10 personnel this year.
Let's hold it to
those receivers on the field, right? That should be fun in a Hugh Freeze offense.
For sure. Like I looked at the snap counts last year, and Rivaldo was virtually on the field every single play, basically. And then Luke Deal played about half the snaps that he did. So there was a lot of 2 tight end formations, like you just mentioned last year. I don't know that they have those 2 guys in this tight end room. I don't know that they have that true passing threat. They may have the blocking back, a couple of options for blocking back, but yeah, you're going to have to supplement those snaps that Rivaldo is out there essentially as a big wide receiver, I think, with a wide receiver from this room. So that's going to yield itself to more guys on the field which will yield itself more snaps, more opportunities, and guys, keeping guys happy, because that to me is going to be the biggest blessing / curse that you're going to have is keeping these guys happy.
Yeah. Look, man, so many things we talked about in this interview. Normally, I only get 15 to 20 minutes with Auburn's head football coach. Kyle, this interview was an hour long. And boy, did we cover a lot of things here. I can't wait to debut that for you later this week. But we're giving you a little taste here on the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. My friend Kyle Rush from the Barn. Kyle, I want to thank you for joining me as always. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sign up for thebarnauburn.com. You can take $25 off your annual membership, get in all the conversation. Not much portal action going on right now, but recruiting is about to heat up with official visit season right around the corner. And there's going to be a ton of stuff going on. So definitely check it out there and come hang out at thebarnauburn.com.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, worry.